has made a video. It was filmed in landscape mode, but he wants it to be exported into the portrait mode. And he wants to follow the player, who then disappears from the scene once he changed it into portrait mode. And we'll play his little scene here. He's trying to follow a player, and the player disappears from the frame. And here he's moving the frame around. He started out with as we said, a widescreen landscape photo, and he was trying to use motion tracking, hoping that the frame would move along with it, and it doesn't. So how can he accomplish this and keep the player that he wants to motion track in the center of the screen? So let's describe that. So Laurent was talking about the fact that he had a widescreen landscape mode video, and he wanted to follow a person. And but he also wanted to have it formatted into a 9 by 16 or portrait mode. And when he did that, I presumably he used project settings, which is the correct step to go, and he changed it from widescreen to portrait mode. So he then asked about cropping, because you now have an image that has a black bar on top and bottom, because that's what happens. But what he did was he did scale it up. He didn't actually use the cropping tool. He could have used the cropping tool. He could have right-clicked on it and said crop to fit, and he would have gotten that mode. However, that then brings up that issue, the fact that the person that he's trying to track goes in and out of the frame, and he wants the person to be in the frame the whole time. So I'm just going to use Control Z or Z to reverse it. So we want to start with this mode here. And then he wanted to use motion tracking to in his mind, using motion tracking, the frame would move. Motion tracking follows an object on the screen. It does not adjust the frame, so it cannot be done that way. So here we are. We have changed this into a portrait mode output, and we need to now scale it up. And for this, I have to say that I just changed to version 15, and so it looks slightly different than anybody using an older version. But there is a transform section. It's still called transform, and there is an X and Y. However, they used to have X and Y, and then they had a lock here so that you could they were always locked, so if you changed one, you changed the other, keeping the proper perspective. Now they've just made a toggle switch here. They call it uniform scaling. So don't let that confuse you. This is what you would normally see. You would see X and Y, and you would see a lock in between. And we're going to keep that lock so we get uniform scaling, because if you didn't, then the scaling or the image would be stretched in a way that wouldn't be natural. So what we're doing then, instead of using the standard cropping tool, we're simply scaling the image up until we fill the total frame. And if we do that, and let me just see here. Yes, here's what I want to show. This is what Laurent shows. He shows the outline of the total available picture. And we're going to go ahead and scale it up, and these will disappear. All right, we've gone up to 400 times normal. Now, as we scrub across, we can see clearly that the person that we want to track is out of the frame. And this is where motion tracking would not work, because the frame doesn't change. The only thing that you can track is the person or object that's within the picture. So when it goes off the frame, then you lose tracking. So how can you maintain this person in the center? And the way to do that is to use keyframes. Now you can apply keyframes down here, but it's much simpler just to apply it over here. So we want this, we now know that our image is much larger. That gives us the ability to change the X and Y position to center our person. And when we, what we'll do is we will go ahead and center our person, and you see we can move pretty far because we have a lot of latitude now. Because the image is much larger because we scaled it up. Once we've got the person centered within our frame, we will simply go ahead and click the transform, and it keyframes all of the aspects of the transform section. However, we're only really in this instance going to play with the X coordinates, and so we could have, for example, just created our keyframe by clicking this one. However, if you're going to change the scale or you're going to change the Y coordinates, it's probably better just to click up here on the top and start with that. So now our person is going to swerve, and he is kind of out of the frame there. We can do better in this spot where he's the most out of position, and we can simply take advantage of the fact that the picture is wider. And in doing so, and let me just stretch this here, and by the way, we can use this instant stretch. We can see here's the original keyframe that we added. Simply by changing the X coordinates, a second keyframe was added for us automatically. If we were changing the Y coordinates to get it more up and down, likewise, it would be any of the keyframed items would automatically get changed if they were included in the original keyframe. So you don't any longer have to actually add keyframe. It will be done as you change it. And now we will move it. And at this point here, we see the person is going off screen again. And we will simply change the X coordinate again. And we will just drag it over with the mouse till we have it centered. And what happens between keyframes is it interpolates the position. So in other words, it's in one position here, and by the time it gets to here, which is another position, it will have moved the frame, which is the object of this exercise. And let's just see here. Again, we could probably improve this a little bit. And we right here. And we will go ahead and center our person again, simply sliding, holding down the left mouse button and slide. And that looks pretty good until we pass them up. We can get one last one in if we want. It's not really necessary. And again, here, if we now change the Y position, which we hadn't changed before, then we would get another keyframe here. We're not going to change that. We could, but we're not going to. So let's just play this back. And the object is to keep this person within the frame during the whole clip. And we can see that the frame is moving smoothly. We don't even see the appearance of the frame being changed at all. And this maintains the focus on our person, mostly in the center of the screen, but appears to be live action. Here we're passing the person, and it changed a little bit. Basically, that's all that's to it. Just use a few keyframes.